Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Long Range Noob Podcast, the podcast for people new to long range shooting, brought to you by a couple of people new to long range shooting. I am your co-host, Jace Leroy, and alongside me, as always, is Mr. Ryan. I don't have a fun middle name for him today, Danowski.
Oh my. Jace, I'm disappointed.
I didn't have time. It usually takes me 2 or 3 hours to come up with a good one.
Yep.
But today, just not going to happen. So you're going to have to deal with it.
Jace, he does not have a name for me. Leroy is going to be yours today. Then.
I'm embarrassed to say
and I just came up with that right here and then. So.
Which is why it's so quality.
Yes, exactly.
The kind of quality people have come to expect from our podcast.
Exactly. It just screams and oozes quality at the same time.
It is. It's gross. It's like a little disgusting baby.
Gross. All right.
Of course, I just offended all the babies that listen to our podcast. Right. So there goes half our listenership. Oh well. Okay, we kind of have I'd say we have a fun little episode.
Oh yeah, I'm excited for it. I've been
lined
excited
up
for weeks, or not, well, about 2 weeks. Ever since we did it.
Yeah, I think it's been about 2 weeks since our last episode.
Yeah.
Trying to keep that 2-week, bi-weekly episode consistent thing going on. So Ryan and I got to experience something new to both of us in terms of the world of long range, which was our very first. We didn't compete in this match, but it was our very first experience with a Pro Rifle Series competition.
Mm-hmm.
And tell us about that a little bit, Ryan. Tell us. It was actually, first let's talk about what the Precision Rifle Series is.
Okay.
Maybe you can give a little summary of what that is.
Basically, as far as I understand it, it's just the pros, as far as long-range shooting. They are just, they do competitions, I don't know, almost a monthly basis, but it's national, it's all over the U.S., and it's hosted by various companies. I know Vortex does one. This one that we went to, Silencer Co. hosted this one. It was their Quiet Riot.
And it was quiet indeed.
Yeah, but basically it's just a big competition on the national level. I know you have to qualify in some way to get into some part of it. I know you can go to 1 or 2 by yourself and not get into nationals, but in order to qualify for nationals, I believe you have to shoot at least 3 matches. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so. They actually have... I'm looking at their recent match results, and they actually have a lot more matches a month than I thought. They've since April 24th, they've had 6 or 5 matches. They had 3 matches just in the month of June, including the Lone Star Challenge presented by Vortex. They did the Woody's PRS Match, regional qualifier in Florida, or not in Florida, sorry. I'm not sure where that one was at. And then the Silencer Co. Quiet Riot was on the 27th. 28th.
We had also tried to go to the Sniper's Hide match.
Yeah, the Sniper's Hide Cup, which was in the end of
Colorado. May. Yeah, in Colorado, where I'm originally from.
Yep.
So
I think how it works is there's regional matches. So you have... I think if you go to precisionrifleseries.com, you can find out all the information you want. But I believe they have a map, and it kind of shows the states divided into certain regions. And in order to go to the nationals, I believe you have to compete in at least 3 matches in your region. And the way I understand it is they take X amount of people from each region to go to the nationals. I don't know what you have to place, but I would imagine they take the top couple of guys in each region. I'm sure they average the scores. So the benefit of going to more than 3 is that your average, you can throw out your lowest scores and keep your top 3. I think. And then I also think they send invites to people to come to nationals. Maybe people who just missed the cut, or for any other reasons. I would imagine they just fill slots with kind of the next group of guys, or maybe someone who could only shoot in 2 matches and they did really well, but they just couldn't shoot in a third one. That guy might get an invite, and then you
Also,
can compete in the national level.
If your company, I guess, sponsors the any of the matches, I talked to a lot of guys that seemed like they worked for a company, and the company sponsored it, and so they were able to get in. Seemed like a lot of them were that way. But, you also had your average Joe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and a lot of those, especially around here in Utah.
Which Ryan and I originally, we were going to sign up for the Silencer Co. Quiet Riot because it's in our backyard. And we're both fans of the company, Silencer Co., so totally down to support them in any way. When it came time to register, we kind of haphazardly approached registration and figured anyone could kind of just jump on and register whenever, but apparently the slots fill up extremely fast. So it's kind of like buying tickets to a Taylor Swift concert, probably.
Right.
And so you got to be quick on it. So I guess the slots filled up within minutes. And then, so our backup plan, basically how it went down is I contacted some of the guys at Silencer Co. and just told them what I do for a living, which I do film and photography for a living, and told them I would love to go and photograph the event, just to be part of it and be near it and see how it goes down. And we worked out a little deal there. And then a day or two before the event, we saw a Facebook post from the match director, Curtis Broadbent, I believe is his name.
Yeah.
He was looking for a couple of extra range officers, which we'll talk a little bit about what a range officer is in a minute. Basically, what it boiled down to is they needed a couple of guys to volunteer and help out if they needed it. So Ryan and I figured we were already going down there, and so we told them we'd love to help out if they needed us for any reason. So that's kind of what got us this kind of front row seat to the action, and it was totally worth it. I know we got a lot out of it, so we decided to do an entire podcast episode on it. So Ryan, can you talk a little bit about what set Quiet Riot apart from all other matches?
Well, I think the name kind of speaks for itself. It is the Silencer Co. Quiet Riot, and basically everyone that shot in the match, everyone used a suppressor. And now, if we had a lot of people come out from California, and
poor Californians,
poor souls, and other less gun and NFA friendly states, and so those people, if they weren't able to provide their own suppressor, Silencer Co. was generous enough to
handing them out like candy.
Handing them out like candy. Everyone had one. It was awesome.
It was.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously not to keep. They had to just put them out on loan, I guess. But yeah, so everyone, I think they were handing out harvesters, the 30 cal harvesters. So if you didn't have one, that's what they would let you loan. I think there was a couple of Omegas as well that I saw. But yeah, I think mostly everyone had harvesters. But it was great because throughout the entire match, I think I wore earplugs only once, and that was at the very beginning during the sight-in, the shooting sight-in. When everyone was basically shooting under the pavilion or under the overhang.
Oh yeah. It was a little loud under there because of the echo.
Yeah.
Basically, people just shooting over. It's covered with like a tin or some kind of cheap metal, and so it was a little loud under there. But I think I was the same. Like I threw my headphones on for like the first 15 minutes we were there, and then I was just like, well, whatever. Like it wasn't a big deal, and my ears didn't ring once the entire weekend. So it was awesome for that reason.
Yeah, and we were right up against, or we were like literally feet, from where these guys were shooting all throughout the match.
Oh yeah,
just taking pictures. Jace, he listed it on your Facebook page, and I think on the Long Range Noob website or Facebook page, right? The blog.
For anyone who wants to look at the pictures, I did a little photo essay of our experience down there, and it's just a ton of awesome shots from the event. So anyone who wants to kind of get an idea visually of what it looked like, feel free to go to our Facebook page, which is, you can just search the Long Range Noob podcast and find that, and I've posted a link on there. The website I use to post photo essays, unfortunately, isn't super friendly with it assigns it a random URL, so it's just a bunch of random numbers and letters and symbols, so it's not as easy as just giving you a website to go to. I wish it were, but if you go to our Facebook page, you can definitely find it there. You may also be able to find it by just searching Silencer Co. Quiet Riot photo essay, and then my name, Jace Leroy. So if you Google that, you can probably find it. Some really cool stuff.
If you're one of our YouTube listeners, we can probably put the link in the YouTube description there as well.
Or heck, just send us we will. That's a good point. We'll put it in the YouTube description. And if all else fails, you just send me an email. Send it to the I'm trying to remember if is it the Long Range Noob or just Long Range Noob? That's a little embarrassing. I'm just going to double check that because I don't want to give people the wrong one. But you can just send me an email requesting a link to it, and I'll be happy to send that to you. It is thelongrangenoob@gmail.com. So send one there and let me know that that's what you're looking for, and I'll send you a link. So, Ryan, tell me, we drove down the night before it started, right?
Right.
And my parents live 20 minutes away, so we just crashed at their house, and we woke up early the next morning. Or no, the first night we went down, it was a side-in day, right?
Side-in. Yeah.
Okay,
side-in.
Cool. So from when we kind of pulled in, kind of go over your first impressions, what you were expecting and kind of what you saw.
Well, at first, because you have all these real tough-looking, guys, I guess, not too friendly looking, to begin with, and me and Jace, we had cameras. That was about it. We didn't have shirts or anything.
Yeah, we were shirtless.
We were shirtless.
We had pants, but that was it.
That was it. No. We didn't have the Silence
official markings.
Shirts, official markings of so we were just these guys running around, and everyone's trying to get sighted in, and we're just not getting in people's way, but just taking pictures, and I tried talking with a couple people, and a couple people were real open and friendly, and a couple were just kind of at first, well, I'm kind of busy, and it's completely understandable. My first impression was, this is going to be quite the interesting week or weekend. And we were there for three days, right?
Yeah. Counting the side-in day, which was basically the later afternoon and evening, and then 2 more full days of the actual competition.
And so that was kind of my initial impression. Definitely as the match wore on and it started up and people started recognizing us, and they're just really helpful, and I think you got a couple people to even do a couple pose shots almost. I don't know what you call them. Yeah, and just I don't know, just people were way friendly once it kind of got going, and I think that's kind of reminiscent of the gun community at large. Sometimes a little rough around the edges, but golden in their hearts. So
it's actually very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that in the sense that it can be very intimidating, especially when it comes to competitions, to get into it. But I fully. I want to tell everyone, it's if you're interested in that at all, go do it. And it's super scary. Ryan and I still haven't shot in a competition, but this obviously made me feel a lot better about my first time going. Alleviated a lot of concerns, because you're always worried, am I gonna have the right gear, and are people gonna just completely dominate me and I'm just going to look stupid? And the answer is, no. Like, it doesn't matter. You could not hit a single target out there. You're still going to have fun. And what you're going to find is a group of people that are going to just try to help you. They're going to teach you to be better. You're going to be able to learn from them. And
Oh yeah, there was a lot of times where like someone maybe was missing this almost vital piece of equipment, and their competitor who is also in their squad, but still competing against them. I saw more than once, just oh, here, use my piece of gear, and or do it this way. I tried this thing and this thing didn't work out for me, but maybe try it this other way, and people, they were almost collaborating with how they approached a stage. I just thought it was a great display of teamwork and friendliness, even though they're all basically competing against each other. So
I think you're going to be hard pressed to find someone who isn't interested in becoming your friend and helping you out. I'm sure there's a few gems out there that
oh sure, yeah,
that are all business, but you probably don't want to associate yourself with them anyway. So yeah, if there's one big takeaway I got from it was just don't worry about it, don't sweat the small stuff, go do it. But I do think it does require a certain level of preparation, and we'll talk about that too.
Yeah.
So, as I said earlier, Ryan and I volunteered to be ROs. So, Ryan, tell me if you can remember what RO stands for.
Yes. Well, I believe, you might correct me if I'm wrong, but it's range officer. So, yeah, and basically what a range officer is just someone who is in charge of a certain portion of the match. Usually, so at least in this match, there were 10 stages per day, and so over the 2 days, so there are 20 stages in total. And basically, you had a set of 2 or 3 range officers that were in charge of each stage, and so they would just be there at their one stage, and they would, one guy would watch the shooter at the time and make sure that he's running the stage correctly, and then he would also be calling out hits or misses, and
or hisses, which is a combination of a hit and miss. They're very rare.
Yeah. Actually, no, I think they actually were saying impact. And that was it. I don't think they called out misses.
Yeah, I think it depended on the stage. I think.
Or the guy who was running it.
Maybe not. I think they were supposed to call out impacts only, which that means the shooter has to try to spot their own misses and correct. And Ryan, he's mentioned stages a few times. So the way it's set up is each stage would be a different type of, basically put the shooter through a different obstacle, whether that was shooting from a barricade, or shooting from a prone position, shooting with a sling only, or shooting from different positions and moving to another position. So there's all these different, and I think that's what the Pro Rifle Series is all about, is that it puts people in practical situations to engage their firearm. It's not just sit at a bench all day and shoot at a target, which that's totally fine. Or prone, and it's something that I'm guilty of. I definitely, after this, want to start practicing all sorts of different positional shooting, because you get so used to just wanting to lay down with a rear bag and a bipod and shoot all day, trying to get really tight groups. You never really go out and try to shoot off some shooting sticks and a bipod and shoot off your tailgate of your truck while you kneel, or find different ways to make yourself maybe do 10 jumping jacks and some push-ups, and then roll over to your gun and try to make a few impacts with your heart beating and
or
some adrenaline going.
Spot to spot.
Move and shoot, because there's a lot of that, and
there was
and so these different stages, each one, like Ryan said, had a range officer assigned to it, and would have multiple range officers, at least 2, sometimes 3, and these guys are awesome. Like, these guys are all volunteers, as far as I know. And they're there putting their time into the sport. Basically, it's a kind of a give and take. I know a lot of them that I talk to want to shoot in matches someday, and somebody's going to have to range officer for them, and so it's just kind of one of those. And I highly recommend it to anyone who's new to this or wants to just maybe get a close-up look of a match without competing in it. Volunteer
or spending
to
the money.
Yeah, or spending the money. Just volunteer for a weekend at your nearest PRS match, and even if you don't know anything about it, they'll have a little orientation for you. They'll tell you exactly what you need to do. They'll be very clear on what you're doing, and you'll get a chance to see how everything goes. So huge shout out to all the ROs that were down there and all the ROs that work other matches, because and it was really cool because all the shooters were very good to thank all the ROs and tell them good job, and they appreciated them. It was really cool to see that. So it's an obvious. I could see that obviously ROs are very appreciated in the sport, because without them, there's nobody to
run the match basically.
To basically keep things running smooth. It just wouldn't happen without them. And also huge shout out to Curtis Broadbent, who directed the match. I can't imagine the weight on his shoulders putting that together. Over 100 shooters, all these different stages, and making sure the wheels and the cogs were spinning the whole time, dealing with downed targets. Basically their goal is to have a shooter being done through a stage every 5 minutes, and to hit that, it was still going to take 8 to 10 hours to get through the day if everybody was moving 5 minutes. So it was a huge undertaking, but it went great. And even when there was some issues with some downed targets, they got repaired, and everything was back up to snuff. So it was really cool to watch that progress throughout the weekend. And we were kind of part-time ROs, Ryan and I. We helped out when and where we could, but mostly we were involved in the photography and the photographing of the event.
Which I thought was great. I mean,
we got to see all the stages. We got to see a lot of shooters. And I mean, I love photography and video just as much as I love shooting. Just those are like those deep passions that everybody has, those things in their life that kind of some days keeps them going. Like, it's just stuff that they really enjoy and they look forward to doing, and those are kind of my big hobbies there. And so unfortunately they're not the cheapest hobbies to have. No. But I do enjoy them. So it was really great to be mobile and moving around, and then helping hit stages when needed and taking photographs when not needed. And so I think it was a really cool opportunity, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it was great. And I think we got to be right up close to the shooters while they were shooting the stages. We could kind of take photos, but also just kind of see what they were doing. How one might approach a stage as opposed to another. Because everyone kind of had their own different, I guess, idea, of how to get the job done. Yeah, for sure.
Some of it was obvious, some of the stages had a very obvious way to approach.
And some of them just took the exact opposite of the obvious.
Yeah, some of it was like, some stages actually would have rules where you pretty much didn't have a choice of a shooting position or what you did, but others were very open-ended, and you were just left with your brain to, decipher the best way to engage your target. And each stage, you basically, I think generally you had 10 targets and 3 minutes for 10 shots. So just a quick, give some people a quick idea of some of the stages that were there. There was a really cool stage. It was and I think they probably do this at a lot of them, know your limits or know your limit. And so on day one, the stage was you would shoot at 100, I think 150, then 250, then 350, and 450, and so on. You keep shooting, and you could not move to the next target until you hit the previous. So you would hit the 150, move out to the 250. If you missed, you'd have to try for the 250 again. You only had 10 shots. And then the second day...
Oh, I think that one was called Learn Your Limit.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It was Learn Your Limit on day one, and day two it was
Know Your Limit.
Know Your Limit. And the idea behind this one is that If you miss, you lose all your points. So you got to know when to stop. So if you hit the 650-yard target and you think, I don't know if I can push it to 750, then you stop and you get your points. But if you take a shot and miss, then you lose everything that you've got. So that was a really cool stage. There was one called the Ridge, which consisted of 10 shooting spots on a trail on this ridge overlooking somewhat of a small valley, and then another ridge on the other side of this.
Targets all along that far ridge.
Yeah, there's some ridge down, or some targets down in the valley, and there was some on the side of the hill across the valley, and some even on top. And you would have to, and it was a blind stage, which meant you couldn't see the targets. You had to just start, and there were some signs set up on the trail that would tell you when to stop, 1 through 10, and you would get to stage 1, or part 1 of the stage, and you would have to find your target, which would be out somewhere labeled with a big spray painted 1, and you'd have to find your target and engage it and immediately move to the next number 2 position, regardless of whether or not you hit. And you only had 3 minutes, so you could take your time and get maybe 5 targets guaranteed, or you could push yourself and get through all 10, but maybe have 5 misses. You had to really balance that element of being timed, but at the same time having to take your time to make each shot. So
oh yeah, well, and I think there's also a portion of being physically fit there.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Not only like mental fitness, but physical fitness in order to be able to actually move yourself, get up off the ground, get yourself back on the ground, engage a target, or maybe even take a shot standing.
Yeah, run to the next.
Yeah, and with a rifle that's probably a lot of them are between 9 and 12 pounds, and then I'm sure it goes up from there.
Oh yeah, I think most of them are pretty heavy, because a lot of those guys had very thick barrels that were long.
Right.
Then you got a suppressor hanging off of it, and they were all rocking chassis.
Yeah.
There was maybe 1 or 2 guns that didn't have chassis, and so yeah, I'm thinking 15 to 20 pounds, most of them.
Yeah, and so trying to shoot that while after running a good distance, and then without maybe like standing shots, and all of the targets. I think the closest one at the very beginning was 100 yards, or maybe that was number 5, target 5. But most of them were within the 200 and 300 range, I believe.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I mean, a standing shot, at 200 yards with a heavy rifle after running, it's not an easy thing to do.
Oh yeah, I probably couldn't make that shot after taking a 3-hour nap and being completely rested.
And then standing, so maybe prone, but yeah,
maybe.
So, but so yeah, I think it was a good test of endurance and then creativity as well. A lot of guys, it wasn't spelled out how you had to take the shot. So I saw a lot of guys, just kind of being ultra creative in their shooting positions, and I don't know, just like how they would go about getting a steady hold on that target. One guy I saw, he didn't have a bipod and got to or wasn't using a bipod or whatever for whatever reason, and he ended up sitting down and then sticking one foot out with the toe facing up, and then sticking his heel on that toe, and having his other toe facing up higher, and then resting his gun on his big toe, and yeah, just some of the weirdest things, but I guess if it works, it works. So yeah, so I don't know, it was just interesting though.
Yeah, so speaking of gear, what kind of stood out to you in terms of guns and gear that you saw at the event?
Oh, well, one thing that I'd never really considered, and didn't even really know existed, was like the gun, or the pillows that they would bring.
Ah, yes, the pillows.
The pillows, yeah. And I guess a lot of them, because I ended up asking a couple guys, what are these and why are
What
you
are
using
these
them?
fancy
And
pillows?
yeah, and I guess they're specifically made for shooting. Some of them, yeah,
Could probably use
not
it for other
not
things.
a pillow you would sleep on, but a pillow like to support your arms and in various positions
Hmm.
um, to I guess also support your rifle, obviously. Um, but yeah, I guess the company that made a lot of them that the guys were using was Weebad.
Oh,
Never
that's
heard of
right.
it.
How did you spell
Yeah.
that? Or I guess
I believe
how do
it's
they
a
spell that?
WEI and
Okay.
then BAD. Weebad.
Yeah, because I
Um,
wanted to check some of those out.
yeah, yeah. So I ended up looking at a couple of them, and they're not. I mean, it's an expensive pillow, but it's between 50 and $100, something like that.
Expensive
Um,
pillow.
yeah, expensive pillow, but anything with rifle and shooting is gonna be expensive. So you just go into that
That's true.
knowing that. So
And
um,
I mean, I was surprised at how useful those pillows seem to be. Like,
yeah,
um, it almost seems like it's required to have one of those big
yeah.
pillows. 'Cause
It
a
was
lot of the positions
interesting,
they shot in, they use those pillows, whether it was kind of up underneath their armpit to give them,
right?
to give their arms somewhere to kind of rest or to push the gun against while they were in a kind of a weird position, um, to just put their gun on front or the back. So yeah, I think they are pretty handy.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, so it was just a interesting thing. Another piece of gear that I saw used a number of times was a scope throw lever. And
Oh
so
yes, the
basically,
throw levers.
the throw lever, yeah. So basically, what that does, you have your zoom on your scope, and sometimes that can just be difficult to get your hand around it and kind of torque that, with just your hand. And so basically, it's this ring that attaches around your zoom dial, and with a little lever sticking out of it. And so people would, I saw there was one stage where a lot of people said it was actually the most difficult stage. It was another blind stage where you couldn't see your targets, you didn't know where they were going to be. All you knew is they were going to be somewhere along this ridge line. And so you would, they actually had it in this place called Cowboy Town. It was pretty cool.
Oh
It
yeah, the
was,
one at the building
yeah,
where you
with the
shoot from the
building.
windows.
Yeah, yeah. So they would run up the stairs to this platform with windows and a railing, and they would have to shoot off the railing and shoot through the windows. Um, and they just knew the target was around there somewhere on this ridge. And so one guy, or a couple guys that I saw, they had a throw lever on their optic dial, and that helped them to really. They would zoom out, real quick, and that would give them a wider field of view, so they could locate their target quickly, and then zoom in, and then be able to take the shot. And then they'd zoom out again and find the next one, and zoom in, and they would continue through this, through all 5 targets. And I thought that's kind of neat. Um, Definitely, especially when you're under time constraints and the pressure's kind of on. I could see where that would be helpful. So in a couple situations.
Yeah, I have a throw lever that came with my scope,
Hmm.
my Steiner, and yeah, I really like it. And for me, I was just like, oh, this is nice and convenient. But I can see when you're shooting, when you only have 3 minutes to make 10 shots, and a lot of them are going to be at different yardages, that the throw lever becomes very important to have at that point.
Yeah, or even just finding your targets, because a lot of these
Yeah.
guys had no idea where they were going to be at. So
Yeah.
you don't want to be at your max zoom or whatever.
Yeah, so
Um,
being able to rack back and forth from different focal distances can be really
magnification.
helpful.
Yes,
Helpful.
help. It'll it'll be healthy.
I don't even
for
know what
you.
2 words I combined. Healthy and helpful?
Helpful. Yeah.
Well, I can't promise it'll be healthy, but it will be helpful. um, yeah, that's a good one. I forgot about seeing so many of those.
Yeah. Well, there's my 2. How about you, Jace? What did you see?
Well, first of all, you weren't assigned any particular amount, so don't take pride in it yet.
Well, that's my two. So.
I guess I expected not to be so many chassised out rifles, but they were all in chassis. Or
part.
like some aftermarket stocks like your Macmillans and what's some other popular ones. Some of the higher end.
Yeah.
They're more a traditional stock. They have a more traditional stock shape to them than a chassis. I definitely saw a handful of those, but lots of KRGs, a handful of XLR chassis, some MDT, I think is the name of them.
Yeah.
A handful of those. And there was one guy there that had my gun. He had a Tikka CTR 260, and I've later found out he won a contest through Silencer Co. He won the gun and a suppressor, and was I don't know if they flew him out to the competition, but I know he had he was like a special invite for winning this competition or some kind of giveaway they did. And so I thought that was way awesome. And I think that was the only gun I saw that wasn't in a chassis, and probably because he just barely got it, or he may even have just received it when he got there. It might have been brand new. I'm not really sure.
Or maybe he didn't even know to put it in a chassis. I don't know.
Well, I'm sure. If he didn't, he does now. I mean,
yeah.
mine's still in the stock.
Yeah,
and I definitely plan on getting a chassis, and I've been trying to figure out which one I want to get. I'll probably go with the X-Ray, the KRG X-Ray. As I'm a little limited because it's a Tikka action. If you have a Remington 700, then you'll have an endless amount of options. Pretty much anyone who makes anything for a gun is going to have a version for the Remington 700. But I think in the next, I don't know, decade or so, I think we are going to see a lot more aftermarket stuff I know Savage has a lot of aftermarket stuff. Tikka's got a handful. There's definitely some of the bigger companies are making stuff for the Tikka action. So,
a lot of custom actions.
Definitely a lot of custom everything. Custom barrels. I'm sure, custom actions, or at least most people have their barrel and action trued up. So I was trying to calculate in my head what the average cost of the gun was there, and I'm just thinking of my gun. So, my gun's basically about $3,000 before the suppressor.
Oh yeah.
So it's going to be about $4,000, and I'd say mine's a pretty modest build. I have my rifle, obviously, which was about $800. My scope was $2,000. And so there's about $3,000 right there, and then my suppressor was another close to $1,000. Well, it was over $1,000 once you factor in the tax stamp. So there's $4,000, and that kind of surprised me. Now I had to sell a handful of firearm related things to put into my precision rifle, but that's without a chassis. So I would imagine the average is probably around $6,000, because once you factor in a lot of people doing custom work, that's obviously gonna cost more. I mean, if you have $5,000 to drop on a rifle, do it. If you're going to, just get it over with. But if you don't, you can certainly start modest and just do kind of what I did. I didn't have a $2,000 scope to begin with.
Oh, me neither. I was using my $300 primary arms.
There you go. So you can totally do that and enjoy the sport. When you get on the competition level, then gear is going to start separating some of those individuals, probably at the bottom in the middle of the pack, and then your top guys are all mostly going to be sponsored, and they'll have good gear, and that good gear will help you. But I feel that most the most work that needs to be done on any part of this sport is the individual.
Yeah.
You know, like I know I'm definitely a ways away from outperforming my gear. So that's kind of, I'm happy where I'm at now. I would like to get a chassis next, but I'm definitely not outperforming my gear. I'm not to the point where I'm thinking, you know what, I'm missing. I'm not getting as many hits because of my gear. So yeah, it's an interesting sport that way, because you can have one guy who's under $2,000 in his build, another guy who's close to $10,000 in his build, and you know, they're competing on the same level, and there's still that human element of it that I think causes more hits and misses than any other part. So
I totally agree with that.
So yeah, you know, there wasn't any range-finders because all the ranges were predetermined at this match and printed inside of the handbook, so everybody knew their ranges. That's not to say there were a handful of rangefinders, but I'm sure most people didn't pull them out. They just left them in their bags. I saw a lot of ballistic calculators on people's phones. I saw a lot of Kestrels. People taking their barometrics and their wind speeds and all the atmospheric data. Because something I've learned is that elevation changes.
Altitude.
Yeah, altitude affects your bullet a lot. I noticed we had a chance on our first night down there to shoot at a target that was over 1,300 yards away, and we were in a hurry, and we were trying to test to see if the system it was hooked up to was working, which was a hit detection system that would cause a flash, a camera flash to go off so you could see if you hit your target or not. And we had our guns there and some bullets, so we volunteered to see if we could hit it, which we did not. But I put in
honesty there. It's honesty.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, you know, it's 1,300 yards, so.
Yeah, and it was dark. It was getting dark, so, you know.
There you go. And Ryan doesn't have a throw lever on his, so.
I don't. Exactly.
So yeah, basically I dialed up my ballistics.
Arm pillows.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. We were gearless.
That's right.
So I dialed up my information in my phone. I use either Ballistics AE or Applied Ballistics. I have both of those apps, and they're both really good. But they're only as good as the information you feed them. And so my default elevation is 0. Basically sea level, and so I did all my information aside from that, and it basically spit out 17.8 mils of elevation. So I dialed it in, and I started hurling some lead down range, and you know, I obviously wasn't hitting it, but we also couldn't tell if it was even close.
Yeah.
We couldn't see misses or anything, so I thought, well, I must be hitting way low. So I just kept dialing until I was up to like 19.5, and then I just gave up. And it was, and then same thing with Ryan.
I think mine called for 16 mils of elevation.
Yeah, which was much closer, but still.
16 and some.
So the next day,
I thought I was low too.
Yeah,
but,
we all thought we were low.
Yeah.
So the next day, I noticed that I was like, oh, my elevation, my altitude was.
We talked to Curtis Broadbent, the match director, who had shot it earlier.
Well, he mentioned that he had to dial like 13.5 mils or something.
Yeah, 13.5.
And he was shooting the same caliber and probably close to the same speed of bullet as I was. So I was like, man, I can't believe it's calling for 17.5 mils, but you know, the numbers don't lie. And so anyway, I was checking out my ballistics app. I saw that it defaulted to 0 altitude. And I thought, well, you know, let me figure out my altitude real quick and punch it in and see what it spits out. And so I put in my altitude. I have another app on my phone that gives you a pretty decent calculation on that. It was about 6,500 feet. And it completely changed everything. My mils dropped way down to like 13.5 as opposed to 16. So basically I was shooting 10 to 15 feet over my intended target.
Yeah.
So definitely something to keep in mind when it comes to operating your ballistics calculator is understand it and understand it well, and make sure that you're putting in as much information as you can and you're putting it in correct, because it'll definitely pay off. Otherwise, you're going to miss.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll be us, and you're like, where are they going? I don't know.
We must be hitting low. Dial it up.
It's dark. I don't have an arm pillow.
That's how I felt the whole time.
Yep. Yeah, altitude. Know your data.
Know your data for sure. So like the different ballistic apps and kestrels, I definitely noticed a lot of those. Everybody had backpacks because everybody's got a lot of gear, and your backpack becomes a part of that gear for a lot of the stages. You're throwing it up on the barricade or the barrels and shooting off of it, and so even your backpack becomes an instrument. Different sizes of bipods.
Oh yeah.
Everything from 6 to 9 inches to 36 inches.
Right. I mean, 6-foot bipods.
Yeah, there were some guys rocking some. I mean, they looked like stilts, and
tripods as well.
Yeah, definitely some tripods.
Camera type tripods.
Yeah, you can get like a Manfrotto makes popular film and photography sticks, and you can buy different heads for them. And I think there's some companies that make some heads that basically screw onto the sticks, and it allows for you to mount your rifle onto it. You can also just put a regular camera plate. Find a way to mount that to your chassis or your rifle stock, and then you can basically just lock in your the front of your gun into the tripod the same way you would a camera, and loosen it up so that you can swivel it and move it around, and use that as a support. So tripods, it's actually what I shot a bighorn sheep off a tripod in the most redneck way possible, but it totally worked. So
yeah. How did you do that, Jace? What was it?
It was just
a towel
it was just like some because the tripod was an actual camera tripod and not for set up for a gun. So I stacked just a bunch of cloth or something on top of it, on top of the head of the tripod, and then threw my gun up on it and kind of balanced it with my hand. And once again, I didn't have an arm pillow, and it about cost me.
Yep.
So
almost missed your sheep.
Almost.
Almost.
Again. I only missed it 10 times previous. So, so yeah, lots of gear. And, it's just basically anything you can fit on you or inside of your backpack.
Yeah. Well, and if you guys want to check out more detail what gear, we had a lot of pictures that we had taken of these guys, and they're all running with it. So
yeah,
just
it'll give you a sense for sure.
Oh yeah, browse the pictures and look at all those arm pillows and tripods.
Drool over the arm pillows.
Yeah, there you go. And throw levers. So, yep. So, yeah. So Jace, what kind of surprised you with this match? I don't know, anything that's kind of stuck out that
there was. It's weird. I'm conflicted on this. So, because I was both surprised that women were there competing, but at the same time, I was kind of surprised there weren't more. The more I thought about it, because I know that the firearms industry is growing rapidly, and a lot of that is women getting into not only defending themselves with concealed carry and carrying pistols, which I think is great, but getting into competition. And there's a lot of women who, we've talked about this before, do very well in competition. And I've heard from and even spoke with instructors or people who have taken people out to teach, and they always say that women are very teachable and do very well, a lot, usually generally better than the men in their classes. So yeah, I think at first I was like, oh, there's some women competing, and then as the weekend went on, I thought, I'm surprised there's not more women competing. So there was definitely a handful of girls there, and that's another thing is I think it's easy for people on the outside looking in to think that guns are definitely a boy toy, but it's very, very much not the case. There's a lot of female gun owners, and it's just exponentially growing. And so definitely don't let that stop you. Or if you've got a girlfriend or a wife who enjoys shooting with you, totally get her into it and go do a competition together. We saw a couple of husband-wife combos out there, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
And something they can do together. And don't let that intimidate you at all, because women definitely compete in this sport. And I'd like to just see more and more get into it, because I just think it's really cool.
Yeah. That kind of leads into something that surprised me.
Ooh, a segue.
I know, yeah. And not just women, but there was just like a lot of your just average Joe kind of guys
Yeah,
there.
the Ryans and Jaces.
Yeah, the Ryans and Jaces of the world. Or I was, when I got there, I was expecting there to be a lot of, and there were some, rough and tough military looking type
Definitely,
dudes.
yeah.
There was, a few of them, so they're definitely there, but yeah, I just, there was a lot of, your random Ryan and Jaces of the world. So
Your Joe
type of
Schmoes.
Your Joe Schmoes that were there. So, but everyone had a great time, and everyone was, helping each other. So, even the rough and tough military type.
Oh yeah,
type dudes.
some of those guys were the nicest guys there.
Oh yeah.
Very willing to help, and
the guy who won actually, Brian Morgan.
Yeah, Brian.
So I was talking with him for quite a while, and it seemed to me like he was ex-military of some sort.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, but he didn't. We didn't really talk about that too much. We talked about shooting mostly. So, but yeah, no, just a great bunch of guys. So
yeah, because I didn't know we're very new to this sport, and we actually visited with Brian at one of the stages for quite a while. While his squad members were shooting, he was sitting down with us at one of the benches there, and we had an opportunity to visit with him. Extremely kind, outgoing, answered some questions. But when we got back, I jumped onto the Precision Rifle Series website and was checking some things out, and he is currently in the second place leaderboard of the whole competition. So it just goes to show you that the guys, even the guys who are at the top of this sport, are just as friendly as your average guys, and don't let that intimidate you. Now, they're shooting and their abilities might intimidate you, but don't think that people are gonna ostracize you, or because I think that happens in a lot of other sports. I grew up playing basketball and baseball, and
we get these guys
and golf, and even in golf, it was
yeah.
it just, you get people who are full of themselves and who treat others poorly because they're either not as good at it, or they're not part of that scene. And it's not like that at all in the firearms industry. People love it. They love the newbies coming in, and everybody at one point or another was a newbie, and so it's also something that can be really intimidating. And so, yeah, I think that's just a testament to the whole sport, is people like Brian. Top guys, I guess you could say they have all the reason in the world to kind of look down on others, but they don't,
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
So kudos to Brian.
And all the other guys, there was...
Oh, yeah.
There was nobody that I thought was, kind of a turd. Everybody seemed really cool and kind, so... Always good to see that. So yeah, those are kind of some of the things that I guess surprised me, or that I took away from our weekend at the Quiet Riot. Quickly, I wanted to just let people know something else that kind of surprised me was how many awards were given out, and how many awesome awards were given out.
Oh, yeah.
They basically just had several tables full of awesome swag that
Just
I'm sure
donated gear.
it was all
Yeah.
donated by people who like companies that sponsor these events, like your Vortex, Night Force, Silencer Co. Um, I know there's some Loophole gear. There was
hmm Bushnell gear.
Bushnell. Uh, basically any top names
Cus- yeah.
in the firearms industry probably were sponsors and had stuff there, and
A
that.
lot of custom shops,
Yeah, yep. There was that
that were.
really awesome custom rifle that was raffled away. But but yeah, I mean, even if you place in the top like 25, you're gonna walk away with something cool. Top 10 guys walked away with stuff that was really cool. Like there was like a carbon fiber barrel that I think the like number 11 guy got.
Yeah.
It's like probably a $1,100 barrel. There was a really nice
Yeah.
carbon
Actions.
fiber chassis
hmm
or stock. Actions. There was
Yeah, I think it
some
was Christensen's custom
yeah,
carbon.
some really
Yeah.
nice optics and binoculars, and so some really cool stuff that you can win for not taking first place. You don't have to take first place to get something awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
So now,
so
first place, I think he got the Silencer Co.'s battle pack. Is that what it was? Of
I think
silencers?
so. I think so.
I thought that's what it was, which I think includes like one of every major type of
I
silencer they've
think
got.
so. I think it's a pretty
Yeah,
now.
and mhm,
Hopefully, a guy from California doesn't win it, but
right.
because that would
Oh,
be a
it'd be sad.
sad day.
Yeah. Well, and I believe they paid the tax stamp on all of them as
I think so.
well.
Yeah, I don't.
So
If you're
it's
gonna
not
if you're
the
gonna win, 20 suppressors or 15 suppressors, and hopefully you don't get stuck with a giant bill for tax stamps.
yeah.
Um,
But that was way cool. I thought that was awesome of Silencer
yeah.
Co.
Oh, and the trophies
And
I
all
thought were
the
really cool. I don't know
oh
what
yeah.
normally they have, but Silencer Co. It basically had kind of a cool faded piece of like looked like reclaimed wood. It was really cool looking, cut out. Like a
hmm
block, and it had kind of wood burned into it. First place, second place, third place, and then on top of those was Silencer Co. Omega suppressor that, that they made them so they wouldn't function, obviously, by kind of drilling the core in a way that you could never fire a bullet down it. But they painted them, gold, silver, and bronze, and that was what the first, second, and third place got as a trophy, which I thought was just a really cool idea
hmm
for first, someone's trophy case or whatever.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was awesome looking. And there's a great picture, on the your list there of pictures that you took.
There is.
So
Keep plugging that. I like
so
that.
yeah. So yeah, take a look at those pictures.
That
They're
those
pretty
pictures
awesome.
will increase your precision rifle shooting abilities by tenfold.
Yes.
That is the long
Yes.
range noob promise and
Promise.
guarantee. You heard it here first. So finally, let's wrap it up a little bit here with how. Now that you've kind of seen how it works, how would you prepare yourself if you had a match in 2 weeks or a month from now? How would you go about
Or
preparing for
three
it?
months even. 3 months I'd probably start getting a little more into the exercising. Um, yeah, just be sure to be um, able to run from a place to place and shoot in between.
Or even
I
just get the
think,
running part down, because if you can't do
or
that,
just
then
yeah,
obviously you're not going to
yeah.
be shooting.
I'd probably get some. One thing I didn't talk about with gear is just knee pads and elbow pads.
Oh
A
yeah.
lot of like diving almost into the ground. I mean, and some people didn't, but some people, if they're prepared, they just, throw themselves onto the ground and getting on target. So, and I think those kind of things helps the wear and tear on you,
On your old body.
on the old body. Yeah, so it's getting old, but yeah. So yeah, just then and also the shooting from different positions. That's how I'd probably prepare myself for something like this. Oh, and of course get an arm pillow.
Well, that goes without saying.
Yeah, without saying. So,
that's the most obvious thing.
It's just like it to me. They at first they look so ridiculous because they're these huge, like puffy, like little pillows,
little marshmallows.
They have just marshmallows
hanging
that sit
from
on your
everybody's
elbow, yeah, and belly, and from their gun, and I'm just like, what the heck is that? But yeah, so weird. But I guess a lot of people use them, so and they like them, so.
And now you're gonna get some.
Maybe, yeah, maybe I'll have to look. So they're not too bad. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to see.
Yeah, you at least want to shoot with it and see if it's something that you want to get down on or not.
Yeah, I'll have to try it out sometime. So, but yeah, Jace, how about you? How would you prepare for when we go and do our first match?
Well, the first thing I would do is I would go to our Facebook page and I would not only like it, but I would view all the photos that were taken at the event.
Yes.
And then I would probably share that with my friends and family. So that would benefit me the most for my upcoming match. Right. And then after that, I would order 3 or 4 arm pillows, one for each limb. So I just have them connected to me all over. Do
you have a third arm that I don't know about?
I got 2 legs. Come on.
Oh, 2 legs. Okay, all right.
Just put them around my ankles and my elbows. Right. I don't think you can have enough pillows.
It's basically what we're taking away from this.
I mean, I might just design a whole jumpsuit that's got them sewn into it, so I can just flop my body wherever I want, and I'm gonna be fine. Realistically, I would. Like you said, I would do a ton of shooting from different positions, which is what I'm going to start doing when we go out and shoot. Even if it's just the same target, I'm just going to try different things. And I'm going to really try to dial my dope in and know how things affect it. That's altitude, that's wind, it's elements, it's those little things that are going to change because these competitions take place all over, and so your elevation's never going to be the same, and your conditions, temperature, all that stuff's going to change. So I really want to dig deep into cause and effect on that, and I think, like you said, you can't be fit enough, because I definitely way underestimated how much physicality goes into it, especially for 2 days. If you plan on competing and competing well, then you have to be in good shape. That's just really all there is to it. And so I think that's a big part of it. So yeah, just those really kind of taking care of the physical elements and the mental side of things. And yeah, I think it's easy to get caught up in groups and not really practicing all the other elements, because it's nice to shoot some groups and to learn trigger control and recoil management and the fundamentals, but
it's really only the beginning, though.
It is. It's absolutely just the beginning. And so you definitely want to work on those things, but then there's a whole other world and a whole other set of positions to learn fundamentals in, and I know we got a long way to go.
Oh yeah, but we'll get there.
We will. We're getting there. We're on our way.
Well on our way.
We're leading the charge.
Yep.
As it were. So
as it were.
So yeah, that wraps up this episode. Ryan's taken off to Alaska for a few days, for a week and a half.
A week and a half. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Leaving me behind, and so in the meantime, I may have my suppressor by the time he gets back. We've had a little bit of a hang up on that. My tax stamp came 2 weeks ago, and so I can legally own my suppressor. However, it came to my attention that my suppressor doesn't exist yet.
Yes, it's not built.
It's not built, so I'm waiting on that. There was a bit of a mix-up with the serial number, and so I think what happened essentially is a couple of suppressors got put ahead of mine in the manufacturing process, because it is the Omega, and I know that's one of the newer ones from Silencer Co. that they announced at SHOT Show back in January, and so I'm sure the demand for those are high, and they're pumping them out as quick as they can. And so I'm just happy to know I'm going to get a good product when it comes out. But I've been told probably about 3 weeks. So that was about a week and a half ago. So I'm hoping by the time Ryan gets back from Alaska, I'll be rocking my new suppressor. So that'll be fun. And Ryan.
Should be soon.
I got the hiccups all of a sudden. I got the end of the show hiccups. Yeah, you should be getting yours pretty soon as well.
Yeah, August sometime, probably. So, yeah,
that'll be awesome.
Just see.
And then
maybe by the time I get back as well, we'll have some good news on that front. So
yes, I concur. And we also have a little bit of I guess something. Maybe call it a surprise brewing in the works, but we're not going to talk about it right now. Ryan knows what I'm talking about, but
I have no idea what you're talking about.
And so we might kind of divulge that in later episodes. So stay tuned for that. Other than that, we will let you fine listeners go for the day, evening, morning, whenever. Thanks for listening as always. And if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to email us at thelongrangenoob@gmail.com. We'd be happy to hear from you. You can hit us up on our YouTube channel, Long Range Noob Podcast, our Facebook page, the Long Range Noob Podcast. You can find it by searching on there. You can find us on Instagram, also under Long Range Noob. So check us out on there. We like to post stuff there.
We're around. You can find us.
We are on the interwebs, so we like to hear from you. If you get a chance to review us on iTunes, we appreciate reviews and love seeing those. So until then, we will get back to you guys as soon as Ryan gets back from Alaska.
Yeah. Happy shooting and all that.
I'm gonna cut that out.
All right.
I didn't like that. I'm gonna cut it out. Okay, goodbye.
Goodbye.